It's a new law trying to address behavioral challenges in the classroom, but it's dividing Tennessee teachers, with some saying it focuses too much on discipline and not enough on what causes behavior problems in the first place. Some argue one disruptive child can impact the entire atmosphere of a classroom.
The best teacher in the school cannot teach if they have an unruly classroom. J.C. Bowman is the director of Professional Educators of Tennessee. His group's 2021 survey shows nearly 80% of educators cite student discipline and behavior as challenging or very challenging. We've got to make sure that we're protecting our teachers and our other students as well. Bowman helped champion the new bill, which aims to formalize the process for disciplining students. Curbing some of this behavior and creating a standardized process it will be a win-win for everybody. But Eastridge Middle School teacher Aaron Fowles says lawmakers should focus on training teachers and hiring counselors to help keep kids in the classroom.
All it does is give teachers some kind of asinine checklist that they can complete to get a kid kicked out of the classroom.
He says the law does nothing to address the bigger issue at hand, disparities in who's getting punished and how.
A black student is more than 4 times as likely to be suspended than a white kid. This bill does nothing to address that disparity.
Parent and disability advocate Sarah Scott says kids typically act out because they lack support, not because they lack discipline.
It just seems like a shame that we've shifted, once again towards punitive measures rather than looking at the root cause of why a child might be disruptive in school.
We brought that concern to Bowman. While it's true it doesn't get to the root of the problem unless you address the behavior and you identify the child and get the parents involved, you're not going to get to the root cause. Ultimately, leaving educators divided on a law that takes effect tomorrow. Bowman did agree that it's important to complement the discipline law with investment in other supports, including mental health resources and more guidance counselors.
And he didn't believe where she was. And I had to talk to him to convince him that she was with me because he was that controlling and jealous.
Abby Bolden has heard the stories before.
Sometimes stylists are the only people that the victim or survivor is allowed to spend time with and speak with privately.
As a hairstylist, she hears her clients' stories of abuse and wants to take action.
I love my clients. They're a lot more than clients to me.
Starting January 1st, a new Tennessee law will require beauty professionals to undergo anti-domestic violence training. And since hairstylists and barbers are often the first to hear about domestic abuse, their interactions could save lives.
But if you do work with hair, you know that there's a lot more to the job.
9th in the nation in domestic violence homicides, Tennessee had nearly 70,000 domestic violence cases this past year.
Domestic violence is at epidemic proportions.
Regina McDevitt works at the Family Justice Center in Chattanooga, and they are offering training to hairstylists to help them communicate with these victims.
It's really important to know what the resources are, to be able to navigate those conversations with someone who you suspect might be a victim, and then being able to refer them.
And Family Justice Center here in Chattanooga is one group that is offering this training. They even have playrooms like this available for children of mothers who are escaping domestic abuse, where they will provide them with a list of support options, such as court assistance, counseling, and support groups. For 52 years, Larry High has worked at Bear's Barbershop, and he's seen the problem firsthand.
The mothers is actually afraid of the children.
With rising abuse rates, he's encouraged by the state's education efforts.
We have got to do training. Without training, we're fighting a losing battle.
And he believes embracing a position as a role model in his community is critical.
They look up to me, they love me, and I love them.
If you're planning an early year vacation, listen up. The CDC says you should avoid getting on a cruise ship regardless of your vaccination status. The warning comes as dozens of cruises are being investigated for COVID-19 outbreaks. One regular passenger tells me this caused him to reconsider his trip.
And we cruise a lot, at least once or twice a year, and there's a lot of people canceling right now.
A guidance change from the CDC means Kyle Croft is skipping his family trip to Belize and Mexico this time around.
The cruise line that we were traveling with decided to waive all cancellation fees. However, this past Monday, I had to stay on the phone for 4 hours and 45 minutes.
Croft says his preference is traveling by boat, and after a year of not boarding a ship because of COVID, he took a trip with his wife and father back in October, just as many cruise lines were starting back up.
We felt safe the entire time that we were there, and we had a great time.
But with Omicron cases rising, the CDC is recommending passengers not board cruises. That's regardless of their vaccine status. The agency is currently investigating over 90 ships for COVID-19, and it's meant the Croft family canceled their trip scheduled to set sail on Sunday.
You can get on a boat and have it, and having to quarantine with an 8-year-old in a tiny little cruise stateroom for 3 or 4 days does not sound like fun.
Chattanooga travel agent Ginger Filler says the guidance change is consideration for her clients, but so far, she says her customers have not shifted their travel plans.
A lot of people are concerned, but everybody's ready to get out and travel.
Filler says just yesterday she booked cruises for 2 clients.
I did a Royal Caribbean to the Caribbean, and then I did a Princess to...
As for Croft, he views his latest cancellation as more of a postponement.
We're just waiting out the Omicron variant, hoping that another one doesn't come along right after.
The Cruise Lines International Association said it disagrees with the CDC telling people not to cruise. They believe the cruise industry is being singled out.
If you're looking to buy a house in the new year, you might want to wait a while. The U.S. saw a big spike in the price of a new home this year, and there are no signs of it slowing down soon. Sam Britton spoke to a realtor to see what's driving up prices.
2022 could be another difficult year for home buyers. Houses like this one are difficult to find, and while realtors would love to put more for sale signs in lawns, the supply just isn't there.
We have a third of the inventory that we had 2.5, 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, we probably had about 2,900 homes on the market, and today we've got about 1,000.
Jeff Ramsey is a realtor in Chattanooga. The past few years have been interesting for the housing market. The S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller 20-City Home Price Index recently showed a nearly 20% increase in annual home price in October of this year compared to October of last year.
The low inventory and the rising prices, buyers are having a harder time finding a home, and there's fierce competition.
Ramsey says the average price of a house in the greater Chattanooga area has gone up by about $100,000 in the last 3 years. But he's still feeling good about the market despite the prices going up.
I think our market's going to remain strong in the greater Chattanooga area.
When we asked about increased interest rates, Ramsey says he's not concerned. However, he does say he wants things to be easier for the buyers.
I'll have more affordable housing, new construction, things of that nature to put more inventory in our market so that the buyers aren't having to struggle as hard as they are right now.
Ramsey also notes that because there's such a supply shortage of houses, many new home buyers are bidding more than tens of thousands of dollars over asking prices just to get into a new home.
The increase in home prices was the 4th highest level since tracking began. Still, the increase was slightly lower than those seen in September, and the second month in a row the industry saw slower growth.